I'm going to nerd out here, listener, so have patience with me. Close your eyes for a second. Picture a jellyfish. Their soft undulation, the effortless movement, the ease and efficiency. To me, that's the embodiment of flow. And you can open your eyes and rejuvenation. I had once read about the immortal jellyfish. Have you ever heard of them? They are a specific species that can actually reverse aging. Well, I was hooked. I was fascinated. How does a creature respond to injury or stress by reversing the aging process to actually rejuvenate? And for decades, I have used this concept to work with clients. If we put the human body in the right set of circumstances, could we actually reverse injury and rejuvenate? Well, it turns out I am not the only one to be thinking like this. Join me right here, right now, for an incredible conversation with Dr. Adam Suzman as we discuss the amazing work that he's doing, inspired by none other than the immortal jellyfish. Let's learn more about his work with Immortal Wellness, the effects of vibrational and frequency healing on the human body, and how we can all return to our natural state of flow. Well, listeners, I have my pen, I have my paper, and I hope you do too, because this episode is going to be quite the lesson. I'm so excited to jump right into it. Welcome to Find Your Flow. Adam Sussman, thank you for being here with me.
Pleasure. Yeah, very excited to be here.
Well, I introduced you real quick at the very, very beginning of this episode, but for the listeners, we're going to have a conversation about flow that takes it from the theoretical and the cerebral into the actual embodiment of flow. And I cannot wait to have this conversation. Adam, what does flow mean to you?
Okay, so to answer this, I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory because it's kind of pertinent to this. It's the Buddhist school of philosophy that I kind of belong to is called Dzogchen, which is the great perfection, and the central tenet of this is give up the disease of effort because the natural state is effortless, right? So whenever you deviate from that effortless state, you go into constriction, contraction, and that would be obviously the breaking of the flow. So, that's kind of the base state that I'm coming from, and all my work has been about returning me and the people who take my medicines to the state of flow, so we can actually get on and do the business of what we came here to do in the first place. To be the radiant beings we all want to be, and we know we are, and we're just paying bills and doing all this stuff. So, really moving around a lot of the constriction that we find. I mean, I'm going to go into more detail around the different, if you like, formats of constriction we might find. I mean, constriction would obviously be the opposition of flow. And when you break it down, there are a lot of things that do constrict us, and a lot of them are personal, mental, emotional states, historical states, cultural stuff. There are a lot of sort of patternings that we're sort of bound by, which when we unbind from them, the experience of life is just more effortless. It's more in the flow of things. So that's why when I heard about your podcast, I got so excited because it dovetails so nicely together. It's all about returning to a more effortless state where we can just express what we're meant to do, get beyond even the healing, and then just go into full expression.
Love that you said get beyond the healing, because that's always been my goal. Get to the other side of healing. Like, let's get off the little mountaintop. Let's tip on over into the other side of healing, which is this effortless down slide into our
That's what this is
lives
all
of
about.
just
Yeah.
being.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-mm.
So for you, if you could put it into a couple of words, um, for me, when I like got to know about this immortal jellyfish, I had already had this concept in my head of the human body. I grew up a swimmer, so I was always in water, and I love to float, and I love to just to experiment with what water would do to my body if I just stopped.
Mm.
Stop trying to swim, stop trying to fight.
Mm.
And what would happen? And it turns out you naturally float. So that undulation, that perfect state of just being and floating, and it's this point of being able to become, and there's infinite possibilities in that moment. So to me, that's what um, the the octopus, the squid, all of these different entities. That's what I always envisioned when I thought of the concept of flow. But then to learn about the immortal octopus and
Jellyfish.
the
Yeah.
jellyfish,
Yeah.
sorry, the immortal jellyfish, and its ability to rejuvenate. So it's like this whoopsie doodle. I made a mistake. Can we maybe go back in time and try again? Right. And I
Exactly.
think that every moment of a human being's life, every single moment, we have this possibility of going, whoopsie doodle. Okay, let's try again and start all over again. Can you talk to me, please, about all of your work that's been inspired by the immortal jellyfish?
Okay, so I mean, let me just give you a bit of background on the immortal jellyfish because it's a fascinating creature in itself.
Yes, please. I'm gonna sit back.
Before we go into like what I've done with it. So this creature's tiny. It's about the size of your pinky, right? It's this
Cutest
tiny
damn
little
thing. Yeah.
creature with little tendrils, like little legs that float, and it has no means of propulsion. So it literally, as you were saying, it floats in the ocean, and it's traveled all over the world. It gets sucked into the tankers of giant container ships as ballast and then dumped on the other side. So it's kind of spread all over the world. I got the sample I got was from Japan. I worked with a very famous biochemist, Dr. Shinkabuto, who's done a lot of work on the immortal jellyfish, and he loves this jellyfish. He sings karaoke songs about it. He's quirky in that way, but he just like is so astounded by the ability of this creature to regenerate. So let's go down to what it actually does. So the thing's floating along. So either it gets old and then it sends this message to its cells to rejuvenate, or it gets injured and then it sends this message to rejuvenate. So what it does is it either gets old or it gets injured. It drops to the bottom of the ocean. Basically, the cells liquefy, right? And then it turns it into undifferentiated stem cells and then blooms again. So imagine a rose gets old and suddenly turns to mush and mushes down and then forms again. And this jellyfish can do this. I mean, they haven't been able to track the number of times it can do it. It can do this potentially endlessly. It has this incredible rejuvenative message that it sends to itself. Now, so I mean, I looked at other immortal creatures because I thought a lot of the problems of disease come from aging. So if we could actually get a handle on this aging, we wouldn't actually get to the point where we start to get disease. So this was my big interest in the immortal jellyfish. I mean, also I've got a daughter, and she was so disturbed at me and her getting old and dying. And I said, I promised her that I would find this. So I kind of did. So I feel quite proud about that. Yeah, but it was quite
I love that.
a hectic, message for like an 8-year-old girl to come to me in tears, like, Dada, you're gonna die, and I'm gonna die, and it's like, actually not. I've got the way out of this. So, what's interesting about the jellyfish is that what I've captured is the message of rejuvenation. Now, we don't have the
Mm.
biochemistry of the jellyfish. We don't have it switches on various DNA strands, which tell it to basically break down all its structure and then switches on rejuvenative DNA strands to cause massive reproduction. So, of itself, I mean, obviously, being a jellyfish, it's easier because it doesn't have to dissolve bones or structures. It's a much more simple organism. But what I was able to capture from this jellyfish was this message of rejuvenation, this message from itself, when it says to itself, begin the process of rejuvenation. So when we take this immortal jellyfish, which I've captured in water, I mean, I'll go into the technology around that in a sec. Well, what happens is we have this incredible rejuvenative effect. We feel younger. So people taking the immortal jellyfish, walkers became runners, runners became trail runners became kite surfers, I don't know what they did. They become long, yeah. everyone like leveled up. I remember walking up a hill one day and just feeling like, wow, this is what it feels like to be young again. Like the feeling of there was no effort in the body because the body was full of life. And this is what consuming the immortal jellyfish does for us. It brings us back to the sense of rejuvenation, like nails and hair. I mean, for men, hair disappears, but nails, I have to cut my nails twice a week. It's crazy. It's like the fast dividing cells, you know, accelerate their production. When you put the immortal eyes in the eyes, it it keeps the eye at the healthiest version of itself. When you put on the skin, when you mix it with creams, it rejuvenates the skin. The skin becomes softer and more youthful. Even some skin blemishes disappear when people take them, like even kind of cancerous stuff. So it just returns the body to an earlier, healthier version of itself. Obviously, if the cell is healthier, um, there's very little that can damage it. It's just as we get older and the cells get, kind of tired, then we're more prone to stuff like, aging, cancers, those kind of things. But young, healthy cells are generally able to shrug off most things. So this is what the immortal jellyfish research has been about, and this is what I captured. I captured it, when I did a tiny little snick the jellyfish, and then I put the jellyfish in distilled water, and I was able to capture it, and then return the jellyfish to the sea where it carried on its life cycle. So I acted like this little injury, and I put it back in the sea, and it went off into form other little jellyfish and do jellyfish things there because, what I was after was the message, the actual message. Now, in order to understand frequency, and water, one has to understand what water is. So when we think of water like normal tap water, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in tap water, but when we take distilled water, it's it's like an empty sponge.
Mhm.
Like a plate, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like
A clean slate, you can
a
write
clean
anything on it.
slate, but it's hungry. It's hungry because
Yeah.
there's nothing in it. Water normally is filled with minerals, so it's kind of saturated. But when we get distilled water, it's water that's looking to pull things into it. So this is what is used um, to imprint these structure. And I use all sorts of things. I use mantras and plants and minerals and all sorts of things to imprint in the water. And what I've done with a lot of my work is I found a way to layer the frequencies so we get a much stronger effect because I mean, I was a homeopathic doctor for 25 years, and the worst thing that can happen, as I say, is nothing can happen, right? So you give something to someone, it's like, oh, nothing happens. That's the worst thing that can happen. Rather aggravate them than nothing happen because these things are like, oh, wow, it's so strong. And then they're happy with that. But so I tried to create by layering, the frequency in water to create much denser molecules. So if you imagine like a molecule as being like a ball, like an empty ball, and we've got normal a couple of electrons and protons bouncing around in there, but there's not much, there's a lot of empty space. What I've tried to do is like fill the ball in with like a lot more information so that instead of dropping like a little stone in the water and creating a ripple, I'm taking a grapefruit and I'm hurling it in the water to create a much bigger ripple. And this is what, when we ingest the remedy, we're ingesting this giant ripple of frequency. We're ingesting a message which communicates to the cells. Obviously, if you want a more targeted communication, that's why I made the immortal eyes for people who had like eye problems, dry eyes, and floaters, and even some people threw their glasses away. It just strengthened the eyes to the point where they no longer needed them. But or I mean, what was very popular was the skin one, the immortal skin, which was just in distilled water, and people would just add it to their cream and put it on their skin if they wanted to target specific lesions or areas, or just for cosmetic purposes. So many different applications of this immortal jellyfish. I mixed it after a while. I started to mix it with the different mantras. I use like the Tara mantra and the Lakshmi mantra for abundance, and Tara for just that sense of um yeah, just being held, because I saw this was part of what what kept people out of flow was that they were always fraught because they couldn't ever really relax. They were like, everyone's
Mhm.
always like, you got to hold it together, you got to hold it together. This is the message we get fed all the time. We never get a time to just goof off. I mean, after we're children, we're like, got to do it, got to be on time. There's no like downtime unless you kind of go on holiday. But even there's pressure. But if we could take the frequency of, in this case, Tara, she's the mother of all the Buddhas, we're just getting this feeling of just being held by this like cosmic force of like, I've got you. And in that we can rejuvenate. So, what I saw with disease, was that there were many facets to disease. And, by addressing just, a lot of what kind of medicine these days is addressing environmental stuff. It's about addressing um, food. It's addressing exercise, but it doesn't really address a lot of the deeper patterns,
Mhm.
which people are prone to. So I mean, this is why I created this deity range, which is all about allowing us to ingest a mantra. Because I have a friend of mine who spent 20 years in India, and he takes it very seriously. So he'll wake up at 4 in the morning and he'll meditate for like a week before, and he'll practice the mantra, and then he'll wake up and he'll chant it into water, and then he'll bring it to me. But that is linking this to like everyone else who's ever chanted the mantra. So you're literally bringing these things down as preformed archetypes of, in the case of Lakshmi, abundance. In the case of Vishnu, preservation. Kali is destruction. Shiva is like removing obstacles. So you know, it allows us to bring these forces into our lives if we need them, to make things easier or to cut through things. So this was one area where I saw there was a lack. What if you
Mhm.
you want to feel like you're full of wealth and richness, and then you take Lakshmi. She's the goddess of wealth. So she's pictured with like flowing robes and jewels, and like it just oozes abundance. So you take that for enough time, and then you feel in your cells like you are wealthy, that you are rich. And you know once you feel that, it's much easier to embody it. Because I mean, we can say, "Oh, I'm wealthy." We can do the mantra,
Mhm.
the positive affirmations. I'm wealthy, da, da, da. But the mind is hearing it, the emotions are kind of hearing it, but the body's like, show me. I don't tell me.
Yes,
Show me.
but
Yeah, show me.
that's
Like,
right.
what does it
Yeah.
feel like in my body to feel rich? Like, what does a rich person feel like? And when you look at Lakshmi, she's got so much. She's just jewels and coins and flowers and riches. Is like, wow. You get the feeling of this is an empowerment, and if you can ingest this by communicating this feeling via the mantra to the cells, then it's much easier to actually manifest what we want. I mean, that's obviously a part of what keeps people out of flow is like money and worry about money and concern. So, you know, but what I found even more, I mean, from a flow perspective, the other one that's particularly interesting is I made a remedy from the golden spiral. So
Love it.
yeah, so I mean, what happened here was light was passed through a sculpture that was built on the golden ratio, the pi ratio, and then was captured in water, and then I amplified it. So when you take it, it automatically brings you back to this flower of life, this like this perfect ratio that exists in galaxies and the ear, and sunflowers and seashells. It's everywhere. It's this
Us,
ratio.
our cells, our DNA,
Everything,
yes, all
yeah.
of it.
So by taking it, it returns us to like a more perfected version of ourselves. And this is obviously where we want to be at all times. So, that's another kind of easy flow angle to bring us back into a state of alignment with ourselves. Because if we're aligned with that, we're aligned with the way we were built. And, when people look at buildings or structures that are built on this ratio, they find them more inherently pleasing. This ratio,
For
when
sure.
people look at people's faces, the more closely it is on this ratio, the more pleasant people find it, and like architecture and, we just look at a sunflower or a seashell and it's just, wow, just look, this is how it's built. I mean, even my cat's tail curls up in the golden ratio. It's like crazy. It's everywhere.
The
So
whole cat.
the whole cat,
It
yeah, no,
curls.
exactly. And it
Yes.
curls up and the tail curls up within that. Yeah. No, they're very much built on that. But then I want to come to another area which I feel is quite okay. Let me do one more thing, and then I'll get to the real meaty stuff because I think it's important to address the meaty stuff because I think this is what people often don't look at because they don't have the tools. So in terms of this empowerment or these companion remedies, there on my site there's all these different sort of categories, and these companion remedies are I made one called creation because I thought, okay, well, let me make my best day ever. So I thought, okay, let me break it down. Let me go back to first principles. Like, what does my best day ever feel like? Right. So let me look at the components that I would put in my best day ever. I don't know if you remember there was a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It
I
was like
absolutely do.
right. So that, like, what was Ferris Bueller feeling in that moment?
Go to Chicago. I'm in a parade.
There we go. Yeah. Everybody loves me. I don't get caught.
That's right.
These were the components that I really kind of designed around. I said, okay, I want to be open, so like expansive. I want to be kind of playful. I want to be interactive. And I want to feel like everything is fairly effortless. So, I mean, it's got like the light of Jupiter, which is, I mean, I got this from some Russian homeopaths. They took, it's a great story, but they took like a telescope and they focused it on Jupiter, and then instead of the eyepiece, they put like a bowl of water. So as
Oh,
Jupiter moved,
stop.
they basically captured Jupiter in this water. Then they made it into a remedy and sent it to me, and I used it. But you know, I was always a bit skeptical about astrology, but when I took the light of Jupiter, I was like, I'm feeling more expanded. It's like, oh, let's have a party, let's celebrate more food. Or I'd start talking to people at the gas stations or like the checkout people at supermarkets. I never used to do that. I used to be very much in my head. No, almost became a better person. So part of that was one of the ingredients. It's got the protea flower, it's got the reishi, it's got all these components which basically set the mood for best day ever. When you
Mm.
take it, you're basically retraining yourself in like life can be fun, it can be effortless, it can be expansive, it can be playful. And it's easy to go train oneself in the other way. If things go badly, then it's like, oh, more bad stuff, more bad stuff. And then to unwind that is quite tricky. But what if you could just take something in the morning which would set the mood for the day and say, like, okay, well, today I'm going to feel fantastic. I'm going to go out. I'm going to be open. I'm going to, my interface will be positive. So my responses will be positive, So it's not like I get angry with someone or the first experience is like someone smiles at me and then something else benefits. So it's basically retraining our psyche in what it feels like to have a good day. Right. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people normally like they wake up in the morning, they hit their coffee and bang, rely on the stimulant effect to carry them through the day. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes, when you like rev a car, you skid and you go into something. You're not actually controlling your emotions. You're just accelerating the propulsion. But if we were to set a particular directive in our head, sort of in a way, almost like
Mm-hmm.
program the water to feed the information to the cells that we were going to have a fantastic day, that would be that. Okay, so that's another component in this mind space. I mean, I've kind of looked at the mind space as in quite an analytical way, but in a creative way as well. I'm equally poetic as well as medicine creator. So I look at it.
That is what made me want to have this conversation, is that you seem to be able to take both sides, the mystical and then the science, and you marry them together into something that for me makes a lot of sense. Now, listeners, if you're taking all of this in and you're feeling like a little bit overwhelmed
That's
by
a
all of
lot. It's
this,
a lot.
it is. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot. And you're talking to a person here who has spent the majority of his career really honed in and focusing on this. And also this lady here who has just been, nerding out about this for a couple of decades. To bottom line it for you is we have things that can penetrate into our brains and we can think about them. And those are those positive affirmations and mantras. And there is a time and a place for those, and they're fabulous. There's also a time and a place for things like, what if that's not breaking through? That's when you're taking your conscious mind and you're going into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is like, "That's great, but dot, dot, dot." And then the subconscious mind is what's programmed throughout our entire nervous system, and our nervous system runs through our entire body. Our entire body is made up of cells. These cells store the information. You can't always think consciously, think your way through every single millions and billions of cells that are processing through your body. That's where something like this comes into play, the ease of it, the quietness of it, the stillness of it. Water has the capacity to be programmed for anything. And you can run experiments. People do this all the time. You can go on YouTube. You can find experiments about this all the time. You can yell obscenities into water and then water a plant and watch it die. You can put loving verse into water, water a plant, and it flourishes. You can see these things happen in real time. This is not like magic. It's just science.
Mm-mm.
Now, marrying these two worlds into one, we're not talking about woo-woo magic here. We're talking about the science of it all. And that's what I find to be fascinating, is that science is catching up with magic, and magic is like, okay, let's relax here and let's be very grounded. These are the fundamentals of existence. This is the
Mm.
way the human body works.
Mm.
So, taking something like the flower of life, that is a depiction of how we actually function, how the human cell functions, how our DNA functions, how it multiplies and grows off of itself. That's what we're capable of doing. Negative experiences slow that down. Positive experiences make you feel more vibrant. Helps your cells rejuvenate, regenerate, multiply to feel better. And that all starts by reprogramming neurologically. Okay? Can only think your way through this so far. So what we're talking about here is the subconscious mind, your neurological systems here. And believe it or not, what you ingest into your body makes a huge difference. And that's why Adam is here with us today, so that we can learn even more about it. All right, Adam, keep it going. Keep the lessons coming.
Okay. So let's move on to, where I think it was Isaac Asimov said that like sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It's like if you're using a technology so highly evolved, it'll look magical because. So what I've tried to do with this is to look at it. I mean, I've been playing with water for 20 years as a homeopath and like experimenting with it and what it can do and like mixing and matching. But you know, one of the first remedies and then one of the last remedies I made was liberation and then closure. Now, what both of these are doing is they're literally going back. Um, let's start with liberation because it was the first one, but it's a really interesting remedy because it's based on a substance called Navaratna, which is 9 gems. Now, this was made from 9 gems that have been burnt 100 times each. It was made by a 3rd century Buddhist alchemist in India in the 3rd century, obviously. But the purpose of this medicine was to act as like a karmic medicine, to actually deal with your karma. Now, this word gets thrown around a lot, but
It
when
does.
you take this medicine, you really see what it's about. People think of karma as like what happened and punished for what happened. There's nothing to do with that. It's literally it is what happened, but it's also what didn't happen. So I'll just give you an example. I made this remedy liberation, and third day I took it, I'd had this very intense relationship and we'd split up and we never saw each other again. So part of my psyche was always wondering what would have happened had we stayed
Mm.
together. So it's like the arrow had gone in, broken off, and then it was still sitting there. And what I needed was to finish the story. right? But obviously, as you said, it can't be done psychologically. It has to be done physiologically. The body has to
Yes.
feel what it feels like. Then the body can let go. But you can't say, oh, you concoct this fantasy of this is what might have happened. Your mind knows that it's not fooling the body. The body's like, I'm not interested in that. You can make up anything. Yeah. So in the
Body's like,
dream,
"Show me the money. Tell me
show
the
me the money.
truth."
So here
Yes.
was the money, right? Okay. So in the dream, third down, taking this, there she is. There I am. She's 9 months pregnant. We're like happy, right? And I wake up and my body was able to, okay, that's what would have happened. I mean, it would have been a nightmare. I've got a daughter or someone else. It actually was brilliant that it didn't happen, but my body was able to see it. And Carl Jung said, anything done in a dream is somatically identical to something that happens in reality. So if you can do
Yes.
it in a dream, the body can feel it. It could let go. I actually felt something leaving my body. It was like this broken arrow. I reconnected it, it pulled it out, and then all the energy that had been tightened around there had like loosened up. And as I continued to take this remedy, liberation, I took about 8 bottles of it. It basically worked through all my old relationships, all my old friendships, all the broken friendships, my family, and then acquaintances. And it would take me through scenarios where I'd meet these people or I'd go through experiences. And the message was like, I'll meet the person. Now we say goodbye or we come closer or we forge a new relationship. We have a different thing. But we're not just leaving it in escrow somewhere in some filing cabinet somewhere, because the filing cabinet is us. It's our body.
That's
We
right.
are the filing
That's right.
cabinet.
That's right.
You don't just stuff it in there and it doesn't go away.
That's
It's
what
like this.
baggage is, people.
Yeah,
That's
I
what the
mean,
baggage is. Yeah.
the image I had was like if we were to look at ourselves as a house, and this
Yes.
one begins this process. It's like the house would be stuffed up to the ceiling with junk. You wouldn't even be able to get in the front door, let alone sleep there. So, as I took this, it felt like the image I had was I was on this boat and the boat was lagging the water was coming over. And as I took it, I was throwing these bags of concrete, which were
Mm.
these old memories, these old people I'd met. And I'd go to my local shopping center and these people from the past would pop up like the Truman Show. They'd be there and I would just interact with them. It's quite trippy, because it's like your whole psyche playing out in order for it to play out so it can clear and be done with. So, I mean, we had some beautiful stories. There was a woman in England whose mother had died, and she never got to say goodbye to her. And every
Mm.
night in the dream, she would see the mother in the clouds. She took the liberation. The mother came through the clouds, gave her a big hug, and then she was able to let go of the mother. It
Peace.
allowed the
Oh,
psychological maneuvering to take place so that resolution could occur. Another event was like a more physical one. So this woman, also in England, had been fighting with her family for 10 years. Not a word spoken. Those family feuds where nothing gets said and like they don't even go near, but they lived in
so
the
much
next door
progress.
towns. Right. So she's driving home to her small town through their small town, and her car breaks down, but like 100 feet from their front door. So she is forced basically to go to their house. Like, oh, wow, now I've got to. So she opens the door because she's in this liberation space. She bursts into tears. The father sees her. He bursts into tears. They start hugging each other and crying. The mother's there watching them. She's in tears. And basically, 10 years is washed away with,
Yes.
half a gallon of tears, basically. And, they're able to move on from that. But this is how powerful this remedy is. It's able to influence
Hmm.
the subconscious so that it'll actually engineer stuff in reality to
Yes.
to bring about resolution and healing. So, I mean, this stuff, the more of this stuff I took, the more energy I had, the more, energy I had for childcare, the more money I made. It just became easier and easier. I just felt less burdened. I wasn't carrying all these unfinished stories, like 10 ex-girlfriends dragged somewhere in my field, all these broken
Right.
friendships, bits of family, acquaintances, all just stuffed into like little bits and pieces all over my body. And it was just like, okay, unplug, 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 get rid of, bring to resolution, make peace, move on, make peace, move on. After 8 bottles, there was nothing really there. It would be like random people. I mean, I even took it um, in my hometown in Johannesburg at night, and I went to like a friend of mine's wedding there. And the memories of just driving the streets, and like so much of this memory was sitting in my body. It was like it was quite astounding, like that we carry so much, and
Carry
those are
all of
neutral
it.
memories.
Yes. Yes.
But the heavy memories, that's the stuff that really slows us down. That's the stuff that, like, okay, each one of these unresolved things is something we put in our backpack, another little rock we put in our backpack. That's why I felt like I was just throwing these bags of cement over the sides and the boat was getting lighter and lighter. And then it's like, oh, wow, I can see where I'm going. And let me go back to all my old haunts and collect the jewels from the learning, the understanding. Let me throw the skeleton overboard, the memory. And then after a while, I was like buzzing around the sea on the speedboat, cruising around. This was the image I had of myself in my head because I was carrying so little of the past. So, for me, this remedy, everyone is a gift they really should give to themselves because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know how much you're carrying. And because this medicine, I mean, it's not the only thing in the medicine. I mean, I put shungite in there as well. Now, shungite has the ability to purify water. So water is
Mhm.
memory and blood is made from water. So as you're clearing the memory, the shungite is purifying the memory. So it's quite it's quite a complex construction, this liberation, but it's designed to, part of my thing is like, okay, I'm happy to do the work, yeah, but I don't see why I have to do it crying into my pillow 2 in the morning. Like, why do I have to do
Exactly.
the wringing of the
Exactly.
hands, like the whole,
It's
woe is
so
me?
dramatic.
That's so
Like,
much. It's
why?
too
It doesn't
much.
have to be so dramatic. This could be easy,
It can be
everybody.
easy and it can be fun,
And it
if
can
you
be
can.
fun. It can be an exploration, an exercise of curiosity. I always tell my clients when something finally reaches your brain for conscious understanding, that's the period at the end of the sentence.
Yes.
The entire sentence has been constructed with what happens throughout the rest of you. It has to travel through every single cell, every single nerve ending, and as an event or a relationship or anything in your life, positive, negative, or neutral, as it makes its way through your body, it's got to go somewhere. And then it gets stored away, and after that, the brain goes, "Oh, wait a minute. What's happening in my big toe? What's sitting there in my big toe? Oh, it's that guy that I hated from 50
That stuff.
years ago who was so
Yes.
mean to me." But right, and
Yes.
that's sitting in your big toe. Well,
Yes.
how about he takes a hike? Right?
Yes.
It's like those things that we're talking about here, the big, the small, they're all weighing us down.
Well, and
And
they
when you're
condition
weighed
us.
down, you
Yeah.
can't live,
Well, and
right?
they
You
condition
can't.
us. The
Yeah,
guy who
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
mean
we get
to
used
you,
to it.
like the person who's mean to you puts you into a state of constriction, and then that you take
Yes,
that forward into your life, and then you automatically assume that there's gonna be an attack because there was an attack, but in truth,
right.
the universe is neutral. It doesn't care. You're bringing whatever you want to the party, and you're manifesting it. So which brings me to the next remedy. I mean, so that was
Yes,
liberation,
please.
the story. Okay. So this was like a companion one to liberation because it goes beautifully with it. It's called closure because that's exactly what it does. Now, instead of I mean, it also works with people and stories, but it also works with the residue of emotion. So let me give you another story. Okay, first, I mean, some people say like, oh, but if I don't dream, is it going to work? It'll absolutely work in daylight because it'll just work differently and stuff happens in daylight. I give dreams because the dreams are often a very pure way of showing how it's working, and it's very clear exactly what's happening. So in this dream, after taking the closure, I'm back at school, but I went to an all boys school, Methodist school, like very conservative and like very aggressive and I look down and I'm late for school. I'm late for assembly. I look down, I'm wearing the wrong clothes, the wrong school uniform. I'm wearing a pink shirt. So I'm going to be
At
in
least you were
trouble
wearing
because
clothes.
I was, yeah, yeah, yeah. But everything else was wrong. And the feeling in the body was dread, that feeling of,
Sure,
oh, I'm late for
sure.
school. I'm in trouble. I'm going to be, just the feeling of dread. I mean, it was the distillate of dread. So I've got this, and I've got to go to the teacher, and I'm late, where I've got to go to class. So I go up to where my class should be, and it turns into this beautiful garden, and there's a wedding going on, and the children are playing. So it took me back into the story with the full emotions, and then it took me out another door. But the feeling when I woke up was like, oh, the dread is gone because I can exit through this other door. I've always got this sanctuary. So, it's 3 or 4 plants that make up this remedy. It's like Espantum Muerte, Abiatra Camino, and Solomon's Seal. But basically, it takes you back. It closes the door, but then it takes you out a different way. It takes you out, um, you know, a road where you can actually resolve it and move beyond it. So another example, just to show this. Okay, once again, a
That's
dream. So there was
beautiful.
this friend of mine who very close to, but then he betrayed me very badly, and we studied Buddhism together, and we were very close, and it was quite a betrayal. And after that, what do you do if you have love and hate towards a person? Like if you put down
Right.
the hate, you
Both
betrayed the
sides of the
love.
same coin.
You know what I mean? But if
Yeah.
you're betraying one. If you put the one down, you betray the hate, then you
Right.
abandon
Right.
the love. If you do the love, you abandon the hate. So, but you can't. So in the dream, we're friends again, right? So I'm forced to deal with this. I wake up, it's like, oh, we're friends. My body feels like we're friends again. So I say, okay, well, let me do it differently this time. So I take all the good memories, I bury all the bad memories, like dig it into the ground and da 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 da. Next night, I have a dream, and in the dream, I'm looking for him. So I come to this manhole, right? And his face is on the manhole, but then there's concrete smeared over the manhole. It's like, okay, you can't go here. It's finished. But I think just to be sure, let me have a look at this memory. So I take an axe and I hack through the manhole. I go down the stairs to this underground tunnel where I'm going to go back to the memories of him. And the road itself has been turned to rubble. It's like pieces, boulders. It was like the road itself is gone. So even if I'd wanted to go back there, I couldn't have. That raw emotion that it was like the sludge in the bathtub, which just sits there and
Mhm.
what do you do with it? But this just opens the what's it called, the bath plug, and allows the stuff to pour down the drain, but it takes us through the actual emotions. And then after that, I would almost try conjure the feeling of this person. The way we've got a scab and we want to scratch it. We
Yes.
can't help ourselves. It's
Yes.
part of being human. You know, we only do it because there's a scab there. But if we look there and there's nothing there and we don't feel anything, then
Nothing to
we,
pick
we
at.
can imagine it. But why would we do that? The actual feeling is gone. So this one is, if anything, even more powerful than liberation, but it deals with the emotional residue that's left from trauma and just living. I mean, like going back to high school. I mean, I'm like 57 now, so it was like 30, 40 years ago almost, like this memory, but somehow in my body, there was still this dread. And I realized that this dread on some level was informing my relationship with the world, because it's like, if you
Yes.
think that the world's going to be a hostile place or you're going to be attacked, you automatically, you get more defensive, you cloak, you retreat, or you come to it with a bit of skepticism because maybe the dog's going to bite you. But if you've only ever had good experiences with dogs, then you expect the dog not to bite you, and it probably won't bite you. But if you expect it to bite you, it probably will bite you. So this is what it deals with. It deals with all these residues of emotions that are somehow in our body. And this is what you were talking about earlier, the subconscious and the unconscious programming, which is kind of forcing us to move into these different states because we're doing that unconsciously. Like I woke up the one night and it's like I was all angry and I just saw my face and it was like my father's face. It's like, wow, okay, you're the angry man now. So like put it down, and I had to like literally put it down, but I got to see it. It's like, oh, that's the anger. And then I realized when I go into it, but now, this gives you the foresight to actually see it and put it down and move beyond it. But here's where it gets even more crazy, okay? I mean, I know I go quite far, but I'm gonna go a bit further just for the
This is
listeners,
just
yeah?
fascinating. I love it.
Right. So about a week after this closure story with a friend in the manhole and whatever, I have this dream. And in the dream, I'm stabbing my own eyes out. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty heavy, yeah? But I'm watching myself stabbing my eyes out. And I think, well, what could I have seen so terrible to cause me to
That's
put
right.
my own eyes out? Maybe the death of a child or something. I don't know. But this is obviously a previous life, right? So then I realized, as a result of that, like, okay, I choose not to see, or the choice I'd made in this life now was like, I'll try, I'll try help, but if I can't, I'll just kind of collapse and go into despair. And that's been my kind of pattern, my default. And then seeing that, it's like, okay, but there is another route. There's a third route
Mhm.
to just be relentlessly optimistic, to just trust and just have hope in the future, regardless of what's going on, you know? And that's what I chose. But I almost had to see what I'd chosen before the previous,
Yes.
okay, I'm going to not see, or I'm going to try, but then I'll collapse, or I'm just going to try and let the chips fall where they may. Let's see where it goes. So this is potentially how far back it runs in terms of motivation of our psyche and where it goes with this. And, to have the tools to get back there. I mean, they
Mhm.
say self-knowledge is the ultimate elixir because there's nothing greater, because if you understand yourself, then you understand the world and you're not
Yes.
carrying any of this residue into your experiences. It's so nice to actually go into a situation. Like I had a big fallout with my sister, and then I just repatterned it. I just turned it all around, and now it's fine, It's like, but I
Yeah.
stepped into it, like, I'm gonna be the one that fixes this, and I said to her, like, "I will agree to do this." She's like, "Okay, what do you want from me?" I was like, "Okay, I need you not to do that." And, like, we made an agreement, and then we stick to it. And it just was so empowering that we weren't just repeating the same patterns again and again. I mean, family is the biggest one, but relationships, you don't wanna be finding the same dysfunctional relationship because it was your
Mhm.
parents' pattern or their parents' pattern or your whatever it was reaction to that pattern. We want to be free to do what we want to do without being bound by these patterns. And as you say, these patterns are carved in neurologically, they're carved into our nervous system. It's like you can't say to the kid who's been bitten by the dog, don't be afraid of dogs, because his
That's
whole
right.
body's in fear. So I mean, to
That's
use an
right.
example like with that, the whole get back on the horse after you've been thrown off. So
I was just thinking about that.
but
It
an
was just in
example of
my
how
head.
this
Yes.
proposal would work, yeah, would be, imagine being bitten by a shark and you don't want to go back in the sea,
I
and
don't want that.
no, no, but hear me out, hear me out. There's a good lesson here, yeah? So what this would do, it would create a scenario where you're in this portable pool or like this pool, and there's these cute little pajama sharks, and you're sitting on a lilo like there, you're having a margarita or something, and it's all safe, and the shark is all friendly and it's brushing past you and it's never gonna eat you, and you know, and in that, your fear of sharks disappears, or you get back on this super friendly horse and it takes you on this beautiful ride and doesn't try to buck you or bite you or kick you or anything. So, this is what's required from a healing point of view, from a physiological and a psychological point of view.
Yes.
That you know, I saw with the
Proof.
mind. The mind is strong, but compared to the power of the body, it's quite weak. If you
Yes.
can't convince the body, it's not going to happen. The emotions
No,
will
if you
follow the
can't, right.
body.
You have to get your body online, everybody. I mean, I remember as a kid, any of us who have learned to ride a bike, you've fallen.
Sure,
And what were you told to do? Get right back up there.
get back on.
Get
Yeah,
right back up
yeah.
there and try it again because the body
Mm,
needs proof.
mm,
That's when people talk about something tangible,
mm.
the 3D aspect of things. That's the tangible, the grit of it. What can you hang on to? That's the human body. It's how the body functions. It's also why I have always been convinced that the body can heal, that the body was created for self healing. I would look at myself with a cut and be fascinated. I used to take little magnifying glasses and put it up
Right.
against a cut to
Okay.
watch to see the cells and see
Right.
how they change every day
Right.
because
Beautiful.
I'm fascinated by the body's
Yes.
natural capacity to heal itself. Now, a cut is going to be different from a tumor that's going to be different from any kind of disease. And I've had surgeries and I've had things removed, and I mean, I've been through a lot, but I am still convinced that my body can heal 100% of the time. Maybe it needs some sort of intervention to get it going a little bit faster, but I'm convinced that the human body can heal if given the correct circumstances.
Totally. I mean, what we see with disease is we're really just seeing the tip of the iceberg. It's like as it pops up and, we get a pain somewhere. But in order for that pain to get there, I mean, obviously if you've, had a car crash and broken your arm, that's another story.
Right,
But
right.
if something comes out of somewhere, it's what we're seeing is the tip of the iceberg popping out of the water. We're not seeing the
Yeah.
backstory and everything underneath.
Yeah.
And a lot of that backstory starts in the mind and the emotions and residue. I mean, they say anger
The
damages
energy
the
of it.
liver. Anger damages liver
Yeah.
more than alcohol, So, and I've seen like angry people with with liver cancer, and like they literally have to change their minds, stop being so angry and so aggressive and so pissed off for the world for cure to take place. So, any cure that is not mind, body, and emotions is going to be incomplete, because we might get rid of the tumor, but are we getting rid of what caused that in the first place? And this is where
Exactly.
this whole system I've developed is a very deep dive into the backstories around what causes these things. I mean, my purpose here is immortality and like kind of endless health and happiness and like good interactions. I mean, all the good stuff across the board, like 10 out of 10 across the board. Like, why should we settle for like I got a 4 out of 10 for blah, 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 but I did okay on this one. But like, why can't we have great stuff across the board if we go on the journey? I mean, this is very much a journey. It's a journey back through the self. When I was taking liberation, it felt like I was going on a journey back through all my old memories to reclaim the jewels, to throw the skeletons aside. The closure is very much a journey back through your emotions, and it'll bring you into situations where it's challenging. The emotions come up, but we have this opportunity, we have this juncture to take another path, and by taking another
Mhm.
path, we set up a new pattern. And that's real healing. And if we can do that with the heavy stuff, then we can do anything. And then, disease, then it almost becomes like our friend. It's like an advisor. Like, okay, well, you maybe need to look at that. I'm bringing this pain to you so you can actually look at this. It's like, oh, thank you. As opposed to like, oh no, I'm being struck down or this disease is attacking me. I mean,
Right.
it's quite a juvenile view on it. Like really disease is like an instructor, as like, okay, or as a friend, as a comrade, to like say, well, look,
Mhm.
you shouldn't have maybe smoked 20 camel filters for 20 years and now you're coughing your lungs out. Like, maybe not such a good idea. Like, okay, well, now maybe you can rectify it. But, you know, all of these things are opportunities for us to choose different directions in like what we actually want to be doing with our lives. And, it's the value of this system, and I mean those two in particular, the closure and the liberation, is that it allows us really to get to the backstory, the subconscious and the unconscious patterning and the trauma that we often can't get to. When you think of like, okay, well, how do you get to back to the trauma? How do you even get there? Maybe hypnosis, maybe psychology, if you can even get there, because,
Right. Right.
and that's why I think a lot of the stuff plays out in dreams, because the people that, the places, I mean, I couldn't imagine the feeling of the dread of high school, but then I'm in the dream, and it's like, oh wow, there's all the dread of high school, all that feeling. And somehow I saw how that had constricted me on some level. So all my interactions after that have been slightly more reticent than they were in like primary school,
Absolutely.
because this is what happens. And when you layer these stories of trauma and, like critical teachers or critical parents, they all cause
Mhm.
constrictions and they stop the flow. So once we get rid of all this stuff, we're literally miles ahead, because we're not carrying this junk. And that's very powerful, to deal with it there. And then what I find is like a lot of our like more magical abilities start to arise because they're not
Yes.
abstracted. I find my
Yes.
my brain works better. Just simple things like remembering someone's bank account number just to pay someone. Like I used to be able to remember 3 numbers. Now I can remember 7 numbers just without having to look at it again. Just simple stuff like that. It's like the brain is working better as I age, because there's less there's less bramble in the brain where
Yes.
where it should be.
Yes.
There's less abstraction. So, for me, this is a gift. The system is really a gift that people give to themselves, and it's designed as a journey back to ourselves, but by reclaiming everything we were, and then like a regenesis. I've got a new remedy called regenesis. It's not in the States yet, but it'll be there very shortly. But which is about reigniting our potential of who we were, and remembering why we came here, and like, oh wow, I forgot I got lost. Oh gee, I'm supposed to be doing this, It's like, because I mean, if
It's
there's ever a
perfect
time,
timing.
it's now. I mean, like, wow, the state of the
Yes.
world is quite intense at the
That's
moment.
what I was just going to say. It's perfect timing. I think because of the state of um, politics and society right now, I think that that's working to the benefit of each individual who is waking up going, okay, enough with the noise. How
Mm,
about I want something better.
mm,
So
mm,
if what I've been living and how I've been living my life is in accordance to all of this
mm,
noise and
mm,
I'm rejecting the noise,
mm,
who the heck am I outside of all of that?
mm,
Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? So
mm,
to have something that helps to process all of
mm,
that and get
mm,
us to why am I here? What is my
mm,
purpose?
mm.
Listen, at the end of the day, everybody has the exact same purpose, and that is to be like your absolute most peaceful
For sure.
version of yourself.
For sure.
Be your
Mm.
best because then your best brings out the best in everybody else, and then
Better
we all get
world.
to live in
Totally.
harmony. Right, it's a totally
Yeah.
different world at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
So to have something that, hello, listener, you can just like,
You just
what
take
is
the
it? You just
drops
put
and
it in
then
your
you
water, just
ingest
drink
it.
it for God's sake. Like it's really not that tough.
Well, I just want to bring up one or two of the other ones because they also give a different, some people um find direction like, oh, where should I go? What should I do? So one
Yes.
of the remedies, it's a remedy called pure redemption, but it's from this. I mean, I've literally sought out the most exotic things in the world. But there's this tree from Peru called Nairal, the mother of all plants.
Hmm.
And the story, you've heard of Nairal. But anyway,
Yes.
so the story was that when, whoever said, who's going to create plant life on Earth, Naira put up her hand and said, like, I'll create plant life on Earth. And if she likes you, she'll give you knowledge of all the plants. So I got this from Peru. I got a friend of mine to sing this Icaros about Naira, like a song to connect her to people. And then when you ingest this, um, it's quite unusual because how does like an immortal tree goddess communicate to a mortal two-legged human? Like what is the interface? But it took me about 3 weeks to understand this. But what I saw, and I mean, the most radical revelation I had with this was, okay, so I normally have dreams of houses, right? Throughout my life, different houses, decorating, people living there, whatever. This time, after taking this pure redemption, the house had been destroyed. And I was sitting in the rubble thinking like, oh my God, my house is destroyed. Do I have enough lint, hazelnut chocolate to pay the workers? You know how quirky dreams are. That was the thought. But then I thought, okay,
I'll take that. You can pay
it's
me in chocolate.
terrifying, but it's also incredibly freeing because if this was
Yes.
the structure I built around myself and I was always coming back to the structure, now she in all her wisdom just gave this
Mm,
thing to me. It's like, okay, I'll destroy your biggest obstacle to your freedom is your concept of yourself. Let's break it all down, and now it's done. It's like, oh, the house is gone. Like you can cry about it, but it's gone. And then since then, I've had different dreams of different houses, not that house, but it freed me from that. So, there's that one. And then there's another one that's made from the minds of a million Buddhas, which is in Pure Forever, which is the distilled minds of a million Buddhas. And when you take it, it brings that into your mind field. So, if people are looking for assistance, guidance,
mhm.
direction as well, I've included this in the range so that, because often we don't know where to go, where to turn. And like, to have a benevolent incarnation deity, whatever you want. I mean, I try to stay away from too much religious stuff, except by using the archetypes and the iconography. But just to have a force that's there that has completely got your back, and only wants the best for you, wants nothing from you. What could an immortal tree goddess want from you? It's like, what could you give her
Right.
except your
She's like, you got
experience?
nothing,
Your
nothing I
experience.
want.
Just your experience.
Right.
You're supposed to see your experience. So in
Yes.
that, it's like, here we go. Well, you just get in return because she's got infinite bandwidth and like whatever, and there's minds of a million Buddhas. If you take this, slowly your mind merges with these, and then
Mm,
it's like you find everything starts to sharpen up, clear up, and it's like it's just the enlightened beings of the past. So, it's a very beautiful system. What I've tried to develop here is something around power, you know, gentleness and beauty. These are like my three pillars that I've did my design spec. So like I want to be powerful so that you can feel it. I want to be gentle so we don't get re-traumatized. And I want
absolutely.
to be beautiful because it's an ode to creation in a sense. It's like
Yes.
it's an attempt to render the ineffable, put it in water, and then give it to people and say, like, look, you too can play with these forces of reality, and find your own path back to yourself. Because what else is there to do? Well, we're not here to pay taxes and like, mortgages and like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Fight? Like, why would that be the purpose? To fight against everything?
This is what,
Right.
oh, you got to get a job. You got to do this and pay your mortgage. It's like, no, actually, no, I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'll choose life. This at least
Yes.
allows people to choose life while still doing whatever the rest of the stuff because they've still got, life. It's not like this is gonna completely derail your reality. You can do this while you're still doing your life, but it's just adding value to yourself so that you can, have a richer existence, which is really what
Yes.
this is about for all of us. And so that's the just behind the whole Immortal Wellness range is just to bring people back to themselves, give them the fullest expression of who they are, give them assistance if they need it, give them help with the memories. I mean, that closure it's quite meaty. And to go back to some of these emotions, like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is the raw stuff, but then to have a good outcome, to have a happy ending, so that we don't go down the same path of
Yes.
broken, repetitive, destructive. It's like, well, we got the door, which is like the Wizard of Oz door, and we go into the Pure Lands, as opposed to like, oh, I'm back here in the same story, which means I have
Right.
to have the same relationship or the same messed up relationship with my parents or my siblings or my friends. It's like, no, enough. Let's just put it all down. Let's rebuild it. Let's go out the other door, the nice door, and then we can actually move on into what we're actually meant to be doing here in the first place. So that's really my kind of mission here. Yeah. And it works beautifully with flow because it all brings us back into flow because if
It
we're not
does.
carrying all this stuff, then we're like this seamless thing that just weaves through reality, and then we just get the experience, and we get to do what we're meant to do. And compared to, I mean, what else is there? I mean, this has always been my thing. It's like, yes, we can have children and do this and that, but like we came here for a purpose, and the purpose was to express ourselves fully. And this toolkit is just for that, to help us express ourselves fully.
Love that this is a beautiful, complete journey that doesn't necessitate endless processing. So I think a lot of healing modalities out in the world, and that's anything from, I don't know, talk therapy to even massage therapy. And I'm an advocate of both, whatever helps to get you there. What I'm not an advocate of is surrendering my power over to someone else. And that's to a doctor, to a therapist, to a practitioner. I'm not a fan of that. I am a fan of working through things efficiently, as easily as possibly, as truthfully as possibly, and then finding a way out. Because I think that flow is ever moving. I think that we should be constantly ever moving. I don't like getting stuck in a whirlpool and constantly swirling around the same topic. I get bored with that. I get frustrated and I'm like, all right, where's the off ramp? We got to get going. We've got to try something else. So that's how I function and how I discover so many different modalities. So listeners, this is a beautiful option. I love, Adam, that you have it's a complete system. It's an absolute complete
Mm.
system. It takes you from the very beginning of discovery, of self-discovery through actual processing, releasing, and then into creation mode. And that's yes, it's an empowering journey. It's not a um Adam, I'm going to surrender all of my trauma to you and you take care of this. And it's
No, we
not
have to
Adam
deal with our own
saying, "Oh
trauma.
yeah, sure, I'll take it all on and we'll meet weekly and blah 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 blah." No, it's nothing like that. This is live your life. Here is something that can help you very easily on a very gentle subconscious level. It's why a lot of the processing happens while you're sleeping. Side note, listener, when you sleep, your body is at rest. I mean, it's all by design. You do the most physical healing in your sleeping hours, and it's because your body is at rest. So it doesn't surprise me at all
But
that a
just
lot of
also
this happens while you're
just
sleeping.
if you don't dream, it's not a problem. It'll happen in your daily life
Right,
anyway. Yeah, I'm just telling you about the
right.
dreams because they distill the essence of what's actually going on. It's a nice. vignette,
Yeah, and it's
little picture.
yes, it's a beautiful way of just sort of, watching it on TV, like,
Totally,
you know
totally,
what I
yeah.
mean? And then you
Late out, you
wake
wake
up.
up like, "Phew, glad that was a dream."
But this the subconscious listener, the subconscious never, goes to sleep. The subconscious is working through 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So healing has the capacity to be
Mhm.
working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When
Well,
you
and the
work with the
body wants to
subconscious,
heal.
that's the beauty of
The
it.
body wants to heal, we just
And the
load too
body
much
wants
stuff.
to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like take the
Exactly.
weight off and then it's auto repair. Then it's much easier. We don't have to
Yes.
struggle with it because it does what it's meant to do. Like you're saying, you're watching the healing of a wound, the body will repair itself.
100%.
As well, if we give it the space, we're just not often given the space to heal, or
Right.
people don't understand the trauma that occurred. So what's required to heal that trauma? We just stumble into the next story, and then there's more stuff, and that gets buried, and more and
Right.
more and more,
Right.
and like so. This is the great unpacking of all that, but so that we can reorder everything and come back online and just decide what we really want to do here.
I absolutely love that. It's and the other the I think the beauty, for me at least, the most beautiful aspect of working in such an easy, efficient way is that you really do just somehow wake up one day and you're thinking differently, which means you're choosing differently, which means you're creating differently. And
Mm,
that means your life changes. You start
mm.
seeing it, experiencing it, and building something totally different. And if you have the freedom of not having all of that weight on your back, if you're not dragging all your crap around with you, things
It's
are a
so much
lot
easier.
easier
Then you
and a
can
lot
move. You can
faster.
actually move forward as opposed to just
Yes.
like treading water. That was the image I had on Liberation. The ship was, the waves were coming over the
Yeah.
side and I was just
Yeah.
bailing just to get the water out. And after that, I was on the speedboat cruising around the high seas, going to the ports and reclaiming all my gems from all my memories and my stories. It was a very beautiful
So
process.
wonderful. It's so beautiful. Adam, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for taking me through all of your work. I find it to be absolutely fascinating. It resonates so very deeply with me. So
I can
thank you,
see,
thank you,
it's nice
thank
to
you.
actually chat to you about it because I can see how much you enjoy this and definitely get some and play with them because there's a lot of gems in the work and there's a lot of, I think you'll find it very invaluable just in terms of like because sometimes we don't know how to get back to these memories. It's like they're hidden in places we're not even aware of. It's like you don't know what you don't know, but you know that there was a thing and maybe there's trauma, but where is this stored? Where's the residue? But this, especially with closure and liberation, it takes you right back to that. It spits it out and taken together even more powerful. It's like one can literally get rid of years of trauma and move forward. And it works on animals as well. Traumatized animals, couple days, you give it to them and they shed the trauma. It's like the memory gets removed. And it's like, so it's a blessing to the world at this point.
I absolutely agree. So everybody, thank you for I guess it's a little bit of a headier episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for learning a ton with us today, with me today. And thank you for being open to exploring all of this. The website, Dr. Adam Sussman, his website has everything. It's got everything from research on through to the entire system and the individual products that you can purchase. I'll have all of that down in the show notes. Just scroll down, click away, start reading some more, start learning some more. And yeah, how about you start your healing journey in a very, very easy but impactful way?
And fun
It doesn't
way,
need to be in a fun way. I was just going to say it doesn't need to be hard.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be hard.
Yes. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being here with me. Listeners, thank you for listening. Stay tuned for even more on the next episode of Find Your Flow.
Thanks, Lisa. Good to meet.
Okay, that's it, listener. Before you go, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and set your notifications to never miss an episode. If you'd like even more with me, come on over to nagarelife.com. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, go on and share it. Share it with somebody that you think would enjoy it as well. All right. I'll see you next time.